Could you please state your full name and address for the record?
Sure. It's Kyle Russell Curtis. My address is 1530 to Providence Church Road.
And that's in Pleasant Garden.
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Curtis, have you ever been deposed before?
I have not, no.
Okay, there's a little bit of ground rules for our deposition today. I'll be asking you questions, and the court reporter here is taking down everything we say verbatim. So it's a great help to her if we only speak one at a time. So if you try to let me get my question out, I will try to let you get your entire answer so we don't speak over each other. Can we do that?
Sure thing.
And it's important for her to get verbal responses, not head nods and shrugs and that kind of thing. So if at some point you were to nod your head and I were to say, "Is that ease?" I'm not trying to be rude. I just want to make sure we get the record straight. Is that fair?
Absolutely.
All right. And I don't think this is going to be a real long deposition. But if at any time you need a break, just let me know. We can go off the record, take a break. The only thing I ask is that if there is a question pending, you go ahead and get the question answered fully before we go off the record.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Curtis, what is your highest level of education?
College. I went to UNCG.
Did you get a degree from UNCG?
No.
What did you study while you were there?
Marketing.
And where did you graduate from high school?
Reddelman High School.
And Mr. Curtis, are you currently employed?
I am, yes.
And where are you working currently?
I work for the R.J. Gordon Companies.
What does Rich Gordon Companies do?
It's a financial investment firm that owns 6 different... It's like an umbrella company that owns 6 different companies. I am the creative director.
What do your duties include as the creative director?
Mostly marketing. The branding. I do their websites. Any sort of like ads they do on social media. That sort of thing. It all kind of falls under that. Anytime they do anything that goes out into the public, I handle the final okay on that.
And are you paid a salary or are you an independent contractor?
Unpaid.
And how long have you been at R.J. Gordon?
Since October last year.
So October 2019.
Yes, sir.
Prior to October 2019, were you employed?
No, just the YouTube channel.
And when you said YouTube channel, do you mean the non sequitur channel?
Correct, yes.
Mr. Curtis, have you ever been convicted of a felony?
I have, yes.
And how many felonies have you been convicted of?
2.
And what were those?
Felony and a cocaine, possession of cocaine.
And how long ago were your convictions?
2013.
Did those both come from the same incident?
This.
Aren't you still on any kind of probation or anything from your sentence related to those?
Absolutely not.
Mr. Curtis, I want to go over you realize we're here today to talk about the service of the summons and complaint in this case.
Absolutely.
And I want to talk a little bit about your contentions regarding that service.
Sure.
Still, my understanding is that you claim you signed a lease to live in Mr. Benjamin Potts's home on Anna Garrison Road in Charlotte on July 15, 2019. Is that a true statement?
That is a true statement.
And it is also my understanding that you claim from the day forward, so from July 15, 2019 forward, your permanent address was Anna Garrison Road in Charlotte.
Yes.
And it is further my understanding that you claim that you paid Mr. Potts monthly rent pursuant to the lease agreement signed on July 15, 2019.
Not every month, but there were a couple payments that were sent to Mr. Potts.
And I understand that you claim that your mother signed for the certified mail package delivering the summons and complaint to her home in Pleasant Garden on August 30th, 2019.
She did.
In fact, she submitted an affidavit to that effect.
She did.
And I further understand that you claim that your mother never gave you the summons and complaint after she signed for it.
Correct.
You listed your address today as Pleasant Garden Road, and that is back to your mother's address. Is that correct?
That is correct.
When did you move back to your mother's house?
In July?
July of 2020.
Yes, sir.
And where had you been living before that?
At Benjamin Potts.
So you lived at Mr. Potts' residence from when you signed the lease on July 15, 2019 through July 2020.
Yes.
And Mr. Curtis, I think you have your driver's license with you.
I do, yes.
Could I see that?
Yes.
Okay. And Mr. Curtis, your driver's license says that your address is 1530 to Providence Church Road, Pleasant Garden, 27,313.
Correct.
And this driver's license, the issue date is November 10th, 2013. Did I read that correctly?
You did.
Okay, so you have not had your driver's license changed since 2013?
Well, it's not up for expiration until 2021.
And going back a little bit to your employment, you also produced a 1099 in this case from a company or entity called 800 Democrat.
Yes.
What is 800 Democrat?
That is one of the companies that the Rick Companies is in charge of.
Okay, so what does 800 Democrat do?
It's a super PAC.
And do they have a specific issue that they deal with?
It's making awareness of the Democratic Party, trying to elect Joe Biden.
And so you were directly affiliated with 800 Democrat before you started working at G. Gordon.
Before I became in the position I am now, yes. I started solely with 800 Democrat, and I worked my way to being in charge of more than just that one company.
Mr. Curtis, is voting important to you?
Yes.
Do you intend to vote in the upcoming election?
Yes.
And do you know where you're registered to vote?
I'm registered to vote, I believe, in Pleasant Garden.
And did you ever change your voting registration when you moved away from your mother's house?
Whoa.
And Scottie, I had stopped on Exhibit 24 yesterday. Is that right? Let's call this Exhibit 25.
That sounds right.
And Mr. Curtis, the court reporter has just handed you what has been marked as Exhibit number 25. Do you see that, sir?
I do, yes.
And just so that you know Mr. Potts was deposed yesterday, and there were certain exhibits introduced to him, and we're just trying to consecutively number those exhibits. That's why this is Exhibit number 25. You may see some exhibits later today that were introduced before, so they have earlier numbers.
Sure.
Mr. Curtis, have you that document, Exhibit 25, before?
Yes.
What is that?
It is that when Steve and I were doing the Non Sequitur show, we were talking about doing an LLC in the very beginning, to which I drew this up, but he didn't want to sign it because he didn't want his name on any sort of liability.
So this was something that was never filed in the state of California?
Correct?
Okay. And it lists non sequitur media number 1 there. Do you see that?
Yes.
And was it going to be the name of the company you were considering?
Yes.
And the second address that's given there is 1530 to Providence Church Road in Pleasant Garden.
Yes.
And that's your current address.
That is correct.
And under registered owners, it lists Kyle Russell Curtis at the Providence Church Road address, correct?
Correct.
And if you turn to the second page, it's more of the same document.
Yes.
And it still has your Providence Church Road address on there.
It does.
And if you turn to the very last page, that is an email signature block from Saturday, July 21st, 2018. Do you see that?
I do, yes.
And is that a signature block that you use on emails that are related to the non sequitur show?
Yes.
And that was it. That email signature block lists Providence Church Road as your address.
In 2018 it does, yes.
Did you ever tell Mr. McRae that you had moved from 1530 to Providence Church Road?
What?
So do you have any way of knowing that you did not live there at the time this case was filed?
Yes?
And how would you have known?
Well, unknowing everybody knows everything that you do with the way that, Steve and I in the community. Whether, I would be talking to people, he's talking to people, it got back then. Which is, a thing later will show that he was aware that I had moved, yes.
Do you have any evidence that Mr. McRae was aware that you had moved in July or August of 2019?
Just his words.
And do you think his words that what he said is that he knew in 2019?
He doesn't say when specifically he knew, but he says that he did know that I had moved.
When was the first time you contend he saw a copy of the summons and complaint?
When I was told online through a person who runs another YouTube channel that there had been a filing with a court that was sent to me, a link was sent to me to view that, and I saw it online.
And when was that?
I couldn't tell you, to be honest with you.
Was it in August of 2019?
I think it was after that. I couldn't, to be honest with you. I couldn't tell you an exact date of when that happened.
Can you give me a ballpark month?
August, September.
And who sent you that link?
Nick Brody.
And who is Mr. Brody?
He runs another YouTube channel that, I guess, sort of reports on the things that are going on with this case.
And what did you do when you received that link from Mr. Brody?
You mean just like clicked it?
Yes. Did you review the summons and complaint at that point?
Yeah.
And what did you do after reviewing the summons and complaint?
Nothing.
When did the non sequitur show start?
That would be January or December of 2017.
December of 2017?
Yes, sir.
And how long was it where there was new content being streamed to the non sequitur show?
Nearly every day until June of 2019.
And during that time, from December 2017 through June 2019, were you living with your mother that entire time?
Yes, I was.
At the Providence Church Road address.
Correct.
And where did you, of those shows that were streamed on non sequitur show, approximately how many of them did you participate in?
All 581.
And when you streamed those 581 shows, where were you streaming from?
various places, mostly from that address. There were several instances where, we would go on location for different shows. I would be, visiting people. Still scream, I went to a wedding in Alabama that between two other YouTubers and streamed from there. Saw a lot of places, I guess.
Is it safe to say that the Providence Church Road address was the main place that you streamed from?
Yes, that would be correct.
And did you have a studio set up in that house?
Yes.
Mr. Curtis said, and showing you what has previously been marked as exhibit number 16, have you seen the document?
I have, yes.
And what is that document?
That is an agreement between Benjamin Potts and myself about living at the 2543 at the Garrison Road address.
And if we look at page 2, is that your signature at my tent?
That is my signature.
And there are 1 through 11. There are several. It looks like maybe a K with a circle of the initials. Is that yours?
Yes, that is mine.
How do you receive this rental agreement?
Ben and I looked it up online.
And do you know where you found it online?
Not off the top of my head.
Where were you when you and Mr. Potts looked this up online?
In his room.
And was it day or night or?
I can't remember, to be honest with you.
What did you do when you found this rental agreement?
We talked about things to make sure this is what we wanted to do. And then we went to a place called Billy Jack's for dinner, came back, and signed it.
So did you print out the rental agreement and sign it?
No, we did it on the computer.
And whose computer did you do this on?
Thine.
And so do you have the original file of this saved on your computer somewhere?
I do.
Has that been produced?
No, I'm not sure, no, but I can produce that.
So you did the electronic copy of it. Did you send an electronic copy of this lease to anybody?
No.
So you were signing a lease to live in Mr. Potts' house?
Correct.
And you kept the electronic copy of that on your computer?
Yeah, this was mainly for the reason this agreement was drawn up in the first place was so that I wouldn't be out of a place in the event that a fight arose or something like that. This was more of a protection for me in the event that, I've had friends and stuff that have moved in with each other. You know how relationships do sometimes. I didn't want to be kicked out because he got angry, one time, and then said he wants out, so this was mainly a means of protection.
So when did you move out of your mother's house and into Mr. Potts' house?
End of July, around this time.
Did you take a moving truck to move your stuff from your mom's house to Mr. Potts' house?
No.
How did you get your stuff from your mom's house to Mr. Potts' house?
Honestly, I didn't take much, mainly my clothes. All of my studio stuff, me and Ben went out and got a desk, set up an office, purchased all this stuff in Charlotte, so I didn't move furniture. Obviously. We slept together, so there wasn't any need to move a bit. His place was fully furnished, so...
So is it fair to say you left most of your belongings at your mother's house?
Yeah.
And did you then change your address with the post office so that any mail that was sent to your mother's house would be forwarded to Mr. Potts' house?
No, not for several months. And then, at the end of July, I had it forwarded back from Anna Garrison Road to my house at 1532.
And did you ask your mother to send any mail that was delivered to you said reconstructors?
She usually kept it, and then, when I came to visit, I would get it.
Did you frequently go back and visit your mother?
I went back there, a couple times a month.
Mr. Curtis, I'm showing you what has been marked previously as exhibit number 15.
Right.
It says Affidavit of Residence at the top.
Correct.
Have you seen this document before?
I have, yes.
And you submitted this to the court, is that correct?
I did.
Okay. And can you explain the circumstances of this document?
This was in my motion to set aside on the basis of the service issue.
And it's dated February 10th, 2020. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what is redacted from the box there beneath Benjamin Potts?
His address.
And why did you reject his address from there?
So I couldn't get tied to his name. People online they do crazy stuff.
But his address is then listed in the paragraph there.
Correct.
So it was the purpose of redaction.
I guess in the grand scheme of things, there wasn't one.
Did you show this affidavit to Mr. Potts?
I did, of course.
And why is it not notarized?
This one wasn't notarized. The one from my mother wasn't notarized. I was doing things myself, I guess the term is pro se. I learned, so this is just me not being aware that they needed to be.
Well, you filed, in addition to the affidavit of Mr. Potts and Ms. Curtis, you also filed your own affidavit.
Correct.
And your own affidavit was notarized.
Right yet, in my mind, anything that I'm saying to the court I need to have, notarized. Or I'm thinking that the notary applies to the rest of the documents in the packet. Again, I'm not an attorney, so I didn't know that every document needed to be notarized.
Where did Mr. Potts sign this document?
What occasion?
Yes, sir.
On his kitchen counter.
And did he use an ink pen?
Yes.
Okay, who is the original of this affidavit?
It's in the documents that I put together for the court.
So you mailed it to the court?
I did.
And that was your first submission to the court back in, I think it was.
I filed it with the e-file system for the court.
So you filed it with the e-file system?
Correct, yes.
So if you filed it with the e-file system, where is the original?
I have all those.
So you have the original Affidavit of Service signed by Mr. Potts and been in your possession?
Yes.
And have you released it to your attorney?
I have not.
If you could, Mr. Curtis, just take a look at exhibit number 16 again, the signature of Mr. Potts, and number 15, the signature of Mr. Potts.
Yes.
And don't those look like identical signatures to you?
They look similar, yes.
But you're claiming the one on the lease was electronically signed and the one on the Affidavit of Residence was signed with a pen.
Yes.
Mr. Curtis, I'm showing you what has previously been marked as exhibit number 1, and that's the declaration of Benjamin Potts that he submitted in this case.
How?
And I will ask you to turn its exhibit so it's about 3 pages in. And there's a text message there that Mr. Potts has attached to his affidavit.
Correct.
And he claims this was a text message from you to him, or I'm sorry, a text exchange between you and him.
Oh, him?
And had you read this before?
I have, yes.
And do you recall this text message?
Dude, yes.
And in the text message from you it says, when I come Monday, I need you to go with me to a notary and get a document signed saying that I lived at your address from December to February.
And
Mr. Curtis responds, I'm sorry. Mr. Potts responds and set perjuries.
and
You responded, no, I did. And he said you're not full-time and you didn't pay renters.
what?
And then you said, never mind.
What?
Why were you asking Mr. Potts to sign an affidavit at this point? And actually, let me go back. Mr. Potts says that this text message came to him on June 18th, 2020. Does that sound right to you?
I couldn't tell you. It doesn't have a date on it.
So you believe this message should have been in the June 2020 time frame?
I couldn't tell you. I don't remember.
Do you remember sending a message like this to Mr.
I remember this conversation. Yes, did he send the entire conversation?
It might be in some of the other documents there. But he says, do you have any reason to believe it wasn't in June of 2020?
Again, I couldn't tell you one way or the other. I don't remember the time frame.
So why were you asking Mr. Potts to get an affidavit signed?
Because I needed to show that I lived at that address.
And why did you need to show that you lived at that address from December to February?
I don't know why I said December to February, but the rest of this message would give the rest of the context, because what he's doing with his comments, where it says, isn't that perjury? And not full-time to pay rent, or it's almost facetious in a way based on the things that have been said online from your kind. So he's essentially poking fun. That's what the face is for in the text message. So I think the full thing would give context with the rest of it, but I couldn't tell you the date that was sent.
So you believe that Mr. Potts at this point in June 2020 was having conversations with Mr. McRae?
I don't know that this was June of 2020 again, but I couldn't tell you when he's having. I don't know that he's necessarily having conversations with McRae, and know that overall knowing your client is posting nonstop almost about the case and the things that are the details of this case. So anybody that just goes to his Twitter account can look that up.
Why did you need Mr. Potts to sign an affidavit if you already had a signed statement from Mr. Potts?
Again, I don't know the time frame for this, so it may be in conjunction with the affidavit.
So you think this might be before exhibit number 15?
I couldn't tell you again.
Mr. Potts filed his declaration with the court on September 9, 2020.
Okay,
Is that correct?
I assume so, yes.
And you actually filed a reply affidavit to this one.
Correct?
And so did you go and research her whether or not when this text message was from?
I don't have any way of looking that up, because I switched phones from AT&T to Verizon and lost the text messages. I have no way of confirming when that was sent.
So you can't dispute Mr. Potts' testimony that this was in June 2020.
I cannot know.
And Mr. Curtis, you have just been shown what's been marked as exhibit number 26.
Okay?
And I will represent to you that is to different affidavits. They will say affidavit of Kyle Curtis. Do you see that? And that they have been filed with two different submissions of yours with the court. And if you'll notice, the notary block for both of them was completed on the 5th day of February 2020. It looks like by David Reblosley. Do you see that? The only difference I see between the two is that in the first one paragraph, it says that the documents were sent to 1530 to Providence Church Road in Pleasant Garden, November 20th, 2019.
Correct.
And the second one, November 20th, 2019, is gone. And there's a different font. And it says August 30th, 2019.
Correct, yes.
And so did you alter this affidavit before you submitted to the court?
It had the incorrect date. Then I changed the incorrect date, yes.
So it's the same affidavit twice. You just altered it before you submitted it the second time.
Yes.
What did you do to alter the document?
I used to wanna.
And then what did you do?
I put down the correct date on mine.
And you, when say you use white dot, you don't mean the white dot that you actually get and paint on.
But yet,
That is what you...
no, it's like a block thing.
So it's an Adobe tool.
Yes,
And you use that to get rid of a November date. And you add it back in the August date.
correct.
Using all Adobe tools.
Yes,
Mr. Curtis, I'm showing you what was previously marked as Exhibit 19. Do you recognize that document?
I do.
And this is something that you submitted to the court. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And these pages show it. First page shows July 29th, 2019, and a Zelle payment to Benjamin Potts.
Correct.
$300.
Correct.
And the second page, on July 30th, 2019, shows another Zelle payment to Benjamin Potts of $300.
Correct.
What is that?
It's a payment application that you can use to send money to someone.
And the statement that you printed out here, what is this? Where does this come from?
Discovered.
This is your Discover statement that's printed out here.
Correct.
So this isn't a Zelle statement.
Whitetail doesn't use a statement. It's an app that's built into your bank account, so it doesn't have a separate.
And does. So where are the Discover? Have you produced the Discover bank statements that show the July other than these printouts? Did you produce the entire statement?
I am producing those, yes.
You are producing those?
Yes,
Well, haven't you produced those yet?
I just have not produced those yet, but I plan on doing it today.
What's taking you so long to do so?
Work.
You discovered your primary bank account.
Not anymore, no.
Was discovered your primary bank account in July 2019?
Yes,
And how long was discovered? From 2019 forward, how long was discovered your primary bank account?
until I would say November, December.
Of 2019.
Yes,
So you have produced Discover statements in this case from February of 2020 through, I think, June of 2020. Is that correct?
that's correct.
At that point, Discover is no longer your primary bank account.
I still use it. I still have, some funds in there, but it's not my primary bank account.
What is your primary bank account now?
Wells Fargo.
And did Wells Fargo become your primary bank account in November and December of 2019?
December or January.
Did you produce any Wells Fargo statements in this case?
No, I have not.
Why not?
I can certainly.
Why is it that you were able to produce the Discover statements from February, March, April, May, and June of 2020, but have not been able to get around to producing July, September, October, or December.
Those I had already filed originally with the court.
Note, sir, you filed August and November with the court, correct?
I think I did all of them.
We'll get to that. Mr. Curtis, I'm handing you what has been marked as Exhibit 27. And this was, do you recognize these copies here?
I do, yes.
And this was an exhibit to one of your affidavits you submitted to the court. Do you recall that?
I do.
And do you see that the only discover statements here were August 2019 and November 2019?
Yes.
So where is July, September, October, and December 2019?
What would you like? What would be the purpose of submitting July's?
Well, you produced a screenshot showing that Mr. Potts, that you sent 300 to Mr. Potts in July. Mr. Potts has said that he never received any payments from you in July, so why wouldn't you produce your bank statements to prove that 300 left your account?
That is a statement.
This is a screenshot, and I want the statements just like that.
Well, again, I said it would produce it.
And you were able to produce February, March, April, May, and June pretty quickly.
What?
Oh, not July, September, October.
Again, I will produce those.
I'm asking you why you haven't produced those.
Because I've been tied up with a lot of things, but I will produce them.
If you're tied up with a lot of things and you can produce February through June of 2020, what stops you from?
My understanding is that they already worked. The relevant dates were linked with these, for example.
You submitted this document multiple times with the court, didn't you?
Yes.
Looking at exhibit number 27 there, how did you get the first page, the August statement? How did you get that statement?
Printed from my statements.
So that was not, you did not receive that in the mail?
No.
So you went online and printed that statement?
Correct.
And you could go online and print those statements today?
Yes.
The version that we just showed you there from August and November has some big black box where there's some redactions, correct?
Correct.
Did you do those redactions?
I did.
Or is the unredacted version of these statements?
This should be filed with the court. I believe I e-filed the unredacted version. Again, these were all done by me at the very beginning. I'm almost positive that I sent those to the e-file system.
Well, every statement you filed with the court has this big black box on it.
Again, well, there's been so many things I've been filing. I could be wrong about that. But yes, I redacted them because of them having, access to the public, or the public having access to them.
Mr. Curtis, I have my computer here today. I would like to turn it over to you and let you pull up your Discover card statement. And we can just pull up the statements and look at them right here.
I don't want to do that today, no.
Yeah, objection.
What's the reason for your objection?
I don't want anything going over until it's redacted.
Well, we don't need to redact anything. All you need, I would just pull up the statement. I'm not going to ask you to print it out. We can just look at it. We can look on there and see what the address is, and then we can.
No, I'll send it to my attorney to send to you.
Yeah, objection. We'll submit those. We'll produce them to you later. We'll agree to that.
So I just want to make sure I got this straight. You have willingly produced February 2020 through June 2020.
What?
And you have refused to go into your statements and get these statements.
What?
And you and your attorney today are refusing to pull them up online and look at them because it could show us what the actual address is.
Objection.
I'm refusing to show them to you unredacted, but in my recollection, I submitted all those previously. Now, obviously, I'm incorrect about that if you say that I am, but in my impression, I submitted what was necessary. I will bid those to you, but it will not be pulled up until it's redacted by my attorney and sent to you through my attorney.
How about this? Why don't we turn it around? We show it to you and your attorney. You don't even have to show me, and your attorney can say it for the record.
I will submit it to my attorney, and then my attorney can submit it to you.
Well, you submit to your attorney your signet information to Discover so that she can print them out without you doing it first.
I will submit it to me, and my attorney will discuss that.
Objection not responsive. Will you submit your password?
No.
Thank you, Mr. Curtis. Earlier, a few days ago, I sent your attorney a video prepared by Mr. Glenn Williamson or a link to a video prepared by Mr. Williamson. Have you seen that?
Right, I had.
Have you watched it?
I had, yeah, laughable.
Oh, it's laughable.
It's laughable.
So in that video...
After this question, can we take a break?
Sure, absolutely off the record. Mr. Curtis, I just want to give you one opportunity. You understand that there's been an affidavit submitted in this case that calls into question the authenticity of the Discover statements you submitted to the court?
I do indeed.
And you realize that you could put all that to rest today by pulling up your Discover account on your computer.
I will be putting all that to rest, but not in the fashion that you...
But you could put it to rest right now, today, and you're refusing to do that.
I'm not refusing. No, I'm refusing your way of doing that.
And you've had ample opportunity to do this.
Correct, yes.
You did, in fact, had produced multiple statements from February forward.
Again, I don't see the point of being argumentative about it. As I stated, I will be producing that, but not in the fashion that you put forth.
And when you say the fashion I put forth, are you going to agree to produce to give your attorney your login and password?
My attorney and I will discuss the best way to do that.
Before we went off the record, you said you had watched the video from Mr. Williamson about the Discover documents.
Correct.
I'm going to play this, and I'm going to pause it. This is the link I sent to your attorney. I'm going to play this, and going to pause it once in a while to ask a question about it. Is that okay?
Should.
And you hear that okay?
Yes. Can I just ask a question first?
Yes, sir.
Is Glenn Williamson a professional, or is he does he do this?
That's a question for your attorney.
Forgeries. I just want that question asked.
It's a Wi-Fi issue.
It's a Wi-Fi issue. Let's continue. We'll see if maybe we can get the video to work later. But you've watched this video.
I have, yes.
And so the first 4 or 5 minutes of the video are Mr. Williamson discussing what's previously been brought up, which is the fact that the funds don't appear to match. Is that correct?
Correct.
And the fact that the postal code does not match the zip code for Charlotte, it actually meshes the zip code for Pleasant Garden. Correct?
That's what he says.
And have you actually gone to verify whether the postal code goes to Charlotte or...
I sent an email to Discover, yes, to find out about the reason behind that.
Can you produce an email in this case?
I haven't gotten a response from them.
Yeah, but can you produce the email that you sent to Discover? Have you produced?
No, but I can.
And you saw how Mr. Williamson walked through the code underneath the def document?
Yes.
And he pointed out several things which he claims were obvious alterations in the document.
Well, he claims yes.
And do you have anything to say in response to that?
He obviously has a motive to try. I mean, if anybody is fabricating something, I would say it would be Mr. Williamson. He's backing your client financially and paying for your services. So this is obviously, in my opinion, a way to try to cast doubt in the court of public opinion. Mostly, again, he is not a forensic document inspector.
Pull up exhibit number 27 again for me, please.
Sure.
Look at the top right-hand corner there. It says statement period, August 1st through August 31st, 2010.
Case.
And look at the next statement.
Case.
It's a statement period, November 1st, 2019 through November 30th, 2019. Well, the difference in format.
It could be a thing on Discover's end.
So as far as you're concerned, it's a thing on Discover's end that their format is different in their dates, correct?
I don't know.
And you think it's on Discover's end that the postal code matches Pleasant Garden, but not Charlotte?
Well, I think if your aim is to try to say that I forged this, I think you can go back to the exhibit that you produced about the affidavits, where I say that I fixed the dates on there and see how that looks obvious compared to these. So if you are trying to paint it as if I did this, I think there's a clear distinction between those two. I couldn't tell you what that is.
So who would have done it?
I don't know. I'm not saying anybody done it. It could be a thing on Discover's end.
And the only thing you've done to clear that up is email Discover.
Yes, I don't have anything, in my opinion, to clear up those allegations are coming from your side.
You understand that Discover has been sent a subpoena, and that all those records can be produced by Discover pursuant to subpoena.
I didn't know that, but sure.
And again, we could clear all this up right now if you just signed on to your Discover.
Objection.
And again, I will be doing that with my attorney.
Mr. Curtis, I'm handing you what has been marked as exhibit number 28. Do you recognize what the document is, sir?
I do, yes.
And is it a document that you produced in this lawsuit?
Yes.
And, in fact, that was a document that you produced in your last response to it concerning the Discover statements. Is that correct?
All right.
Okay. And is this how you usually access your Discover statements?
Sometimes.
And it's this easy to go on and go to the statement period, pull it up on the screen, and then print it out? That you've been prevented from doing that by work?
Again, I'll say this again for the daytime. I was under the impression that I had submitted what I needed to in terms of their statements. I will produce those statements in full, just not the way that you're dictating here at this deposition.
You realize that Judge Dale has ordered this deposition because he suspects that somebody has committed perjury.
I fully understand that.
And do you understand that you could clear that up today, but yet you are not taking that opportunity?
Objection.
It's not yes. I think you're being misleading when you phrase it that way. I fully intend to clear that up, as you say. I just don't intend to do it unadvised from your side. I would rather do that for my attorney.
Mr. Curtis, I'm handing you what has been marked as Exhibit number 29. And that document is the supplemental affidavit of Stephen McRae filed in this lawsuit. You can see at the bottom it says X number refuse. Do you see that?
I do.
Had you ever seen this document before?
I have.
Okay. And in this document, Mr. McRae lists some different video, Discord channel, and YouTube clips that he claims you appeared on. First, have you reviewed those? The Discord channel link?
Yes.
And do you deny that it is you on that link?
I do not deny that.
And actually, it was to a paragraph. 8 talks about Discord channel recording. Paragraph 9 is Discord channel recording. You're in both of those.
Correct.
And you do not deny that those are you on that?
I do not know.
And number 10 is a YouTube video conducted in which you participated. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And do you deny that it is you on the video?
I do not deny that.
And was there anything changed or altered about the video or the Discord of recordings?
There is not.
Okay. Mr. Curtis, I have just handed you what's been marked as Exhibit number 30. And I will represent to you, you've not seen this document before, but this is a collection of screenshots from non-sequitur shows. And could you just review that and verify that that's what that appears to be?
Yeah.
And I believe your picture here is on each one of the screenshots.
It does indeed, and some not the most flattering ways.
So, and I want to look at the first page. So the first page of Exhibit 30 says, let's set the record straight. Streamed live July 8, 2019.
Sure.
And do you recognize that background behind you?
I certainly do.
And where is that background?
This first one would be at the 1532 address.
So that's at the Providence Church Road address.
Yes.
Okay. And then if we turn to the next one, it looks like that's the same background for July 16, 2019.
This.
So also the Providence Church Road address.
Did they?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And then if we look on July, I'm sorry, I guess there's actually two. There's the July 6th streams, one called The Conversation About Conspiracies.
What?
And then the next July 16th stream is the Genesis Correction. So you see that.
All right.
And also at the same location at Providence Church Road.
On the boat, then.
Yes.
This.
Okay. And then we go to July 1st. The streamed live July 1st. Is that also the backdrop of your studio at the Providence Church Road address?
Guess that would be there too.
And then the next page, August 10th to stream live August 10th, 2019.
And
Do you recognize that background there?
I do.
And where is that?
That is at the 2543 address.
Okay, that's the Anna Garrison Road address.
Correct.
Okay, and if you look then on the next page, streamed live August 11th, 2019, do you see that?
I do.
And the background there, what is the background there?
That would be the same.
So you're saying that background is also Anna Garrison Road?
Yes. The thing with the background is it's like a wall covering, I guess. The brick it's not real brick. It's a screen printed, like dark almost, and it's held up by clamps that you clamp in there. So if you notice on the first several pages, there is that sort of like metallic looking thing on the back.
What?
That is like panel pieces that sit in front so you can kind of design however you want to. But if you notice, it switches from the to the white because I have broken it down. And I'm changing out the background.
Okay, so you've taken those down. But you're saying that the white brick is in Mr. Potts's house.
I can take it anywhere.
So the white brick isn't the wall. The white brick is the...
Correct. It's like a screen printed strip, almost stupid. And if you look at the one that says Screen Live on Odyssey, the one behind Jimmy is the same thing. Me and Jimmy bought them from the same place. His is like a wood print, mine is a brick. So the brick can go anywhere that I'm at, but there is a distinct difference in the setup between that last one in July on my end and then that one on August 8th.
And then, if you look at August 8th, the next one, Original Sin, it says streamed live August 8th.
What?
And so where is that one? Where were you sitting when you were filming that one?
That would be at the Anna Garrison one.
Now, if we look at the next one, the background is very different.
Correct.
For the August 21st Susan file story.
Correct.
Where is that one being?
That is downstairs at the Anna Garrison World. That is in the kitchen area. My desktop computer was on the fritz, so I had to use a mobile device to actually stream from. And the way that the Wi-Fi works, if it's not plugged in, the signal is better downstairs. So I am actually at the kitchen table there on my cell phone, which is what the orientation of the video is, up and down.
And then, if we go to the next page, screened live August 24, 2019.
Alright.
And where are you in that picture?
Same place. In addition, I just have my phone turned to the side so that we can fit all 3 videos into this.
And that's at the Anna Garrison Road address.
That's correct. That's the same. If you look at the bookcase behind me in the previous one, that's the same bookcase, the same placement of the candle in the background as the previous day.
August 8th. The next one is August 25, 2019.
What?
Streamed live. And do you know where you are in the picture there?
That would be at the Anna Garrison Road.
And you could pick up that background and move it wherever you want.
Yeah, absolutely. But if you, like, in the first 3, the setup in the background, I got it set up completely different than the ones that I do whenever I move the bends.
And then the last one there is streamed live August 27th. Do you see that?
Right.
And where are you when you're streaming? When that one is streaming?
I want to say that's where I was in Alabama. Because that's just a plain green screen behind me that I used to cast that image on the back, so there's no setup there.
Mr. Curtis said, and showing you what has been previously marked as exhibit number 14. And I will represent to you that this is an exhibit that was produced in Mr. Potts's deposition yesterday, and that it purports to show it, based on the text messages between you and Mr. Potts. And it says, the top says text message timeline, text between Benjamin Potts and Kyle Curtis. First text message June 4, 2019. Have you received this document before?
Yes.
Do you have any reason to dispute? Well, and then it lists days Mr. Curtis spent at Mr. Potts's house in Charlotte from July through September 2019. Do you have any reason to dispute those dates that Mr. Potts put there?
I have reason to dispute them if he's saying those are the only dates that I stayed there.
Okay, what would your reason be?
because I lived there. So this would nearly cover the amount of time that I was there.
So you claim that you were. So Mr. Potts has also produced about 1,400 pages of text messages.
Correct?
Have you looked at all those text messages?
Yes.
Have you put something similar like this together and you went back and looked when you were at Mr. Potts' house versus when you were not at Mr. Potts' house?
No, I don't think that. I say that I lived there. There wouldn't be a need for me to put a time frame together.
Mr. Curtis, I'm showing you what's been marked as exhibit number 31. And I will represent to you that this is a lengthy portion of the text messages that Mr. Potts has produced in this case.
Sure.
And just so you know, I have tried to do a couple things. One, I have tried to only put ones in that I'm either going to ask about or pages so that you can figure out where the data is. And so if you look at the bottom, it's paginated. But if pages are missing, either I'm not going to be asking about those pages or there might have been things on those pages that are just completely unnecessary. Is that fair?
Sure.
And I will say, we're asking questions about this. Your attorney and I both have this document. If you need to look at the other pages, we can't. But this has been put together, hopefully, to streamline things a little bit. There's also some redactions in there. I will represent to you all redacted those because they look like completely personal information that had no business in this case. Again, we can show it to you and take a look at it if you want to.
That's fair enough.
Okay, so first of all, at the very beginning it says how June 4th, 2019. Mr. Potts has said that's the first time you guys had a text message between each other. Does that sound right to you?
That sounds great.
Okay, we're going to go to the next page. It says page 89 at the bottom. And do you see right there about 2/3 down, it says July 9, 2019, 11:14.
Correct.
Okay, and then there are a series of text messages. If you flip to the next page, and that's 7:15 p.m., there's a text message from Cloud. Do you see that?
I do.
And that text message says, so here's my plan. And I don't want you to think I'm trying to come across as being the presumptive or anything. Originally, I was looking at moving to Raleigh. Then I met you, and I thought about it, and I've decided that Charlotte may be the place for me. I'm putting my stuff in storage, and will be staying at home until I find a place in the coming weeks. But honestly, I can't sign a year lease in a city even farther away from you. And I know that may sound bizarre since we just recently met, but I feel differently about you. And if I have to move here, I want to be closer, not farther away from where you are. I hope that's coming across right. Oh, did you text that to Mr. Potts?
I did.
Okay. And if you turn to the next page, page 91, it says, there's a text message from you there about the middle of the page. You don't know if you have anything going on tomorrow evening. But since I need to be looking at places and because I want to see you, I thought about coming down during the day and looking at apartments. And then maybe we could get dinner. Did you text it to Mr. Curtis or Mr. Potts?
I did.
Okay. And then if you take the next page, which is actually page 94, it's later in the day, you see there's a text at the top that's highlighted from Mr. Potts at 10:23 MAP, and Mr. Potts says, so do you have a list of places picked out that you want to look at, or are you just going to wing it? And you responded, I'm going to put a list together. But I'm caught up in the show that I can't stop watching. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
Okay, then if we look at the next page, it's page 95, and the highlighted text there from you at 10:40 p.m. says, so a few places would you suggest I visit? And Mr. Potts says, what area do you like? Let's start there. And you said you like the South End where that Soul restaurant is, and Mr. Potts then goes forward to list several different places to look at it, presumably in that area. Is that all correct?
Seems to be to me.
So as of July 9th, you were looking for places, looking for a place to rent in Charlotte?
Yeah.
Okay, the next page in the packet is page number 176. And you see at the middle of the page there, it says July 20th, 2019. And it starts with some text messages. Looks like they start 12:35 p.m. Do you see that?
I do.
And you go to the next page of the packet is page 180, and there's a highlighted text at 10 p.m.
Correct.
It's from you to Mr. Potts, and it says he was thinking that if I came down onto Z, we could do our thing, whether it be painting or opposite, then come back and cuddle and watch TV so you can go to bed at a decent hour. And Wednesday I could go look at places and go to the grocery store and come back, and I could cook dinner for us and Tiff and Ben if they want to join. And then I could leave Thursday morning, if that wouldn't make you too tired of me. Thursday I have to go to my aunt's birthday party at my grandma's. But that way we wouldn't feel like we needed to stay up because our time together wouldn't be short or anything. And Mr. Potts responds, sounds amazing to me, and you said, are you sure? You won't hurt my feelings if you think I would be around too much, I promise. So previously you testified that you signed a lease with Mr. Potts on July 15, 2019.
Correct.
On July 20th, you're talking about coming down, visiting him, and looking for places to rent and not wanting to be around too much, correct?
Well, I wasn't saying that I was visiting. I was just telling him when I was going to come down. And the being around them too much is any time you move in with somebody, you don't want to wear out your welcome. Or, smother them essentially. So this isn't implying that I'm not there.
It says that you're going to come down on Tuesday.
Not yet.
So you're not there.
I'm in the process of moving back and forth.
And so you've already signed a lease on July 5th, yet you're going to keep looking for places.
Well, that was before. See, there's a big discrepancy in the dates here, because where I'm talking about moving down, there are days before the date. What happened in the meantime between these text messages was a conversation about, why are you looking for a place? Why don't you just stay here?
Does that appear in any of these text messages?
Are these all of them?
Yes.
Because it looks to me that it goes from page 89 to 176 very quickly.
Yes, as I mentioned to you, I've only cut out the date, so he has produced all of them, all 1,400 pages of text messages.
Well, those should, within the time frame, there should be, and I'm not necessarily saying there should be text messages there. A lot of this was having a conversation in person, so there is a big jump from the beginning of July to the time frame where I'm looking for places, and then having the conversation of, why are you looking for places? Why don't you just move in here? And then there's this.
Let's go back and look at page 176. July 20, 2019, do you see that?
Right.
Actually, you signed the lease agreement with Mr. Potts.
Correct. Where is it saying that I'm still looking for a place at that point?
4 pages later. Send that.
Can you point that out to me?
So you might be right. There might be an extra day. But these are in chronological order. So after September 20th, because it says, and the only reason I'm saying that is, well, now I take it back, July. If you look at page 176, July 20th, it starts at 12:35 p.m. Do you see that?
I do.
So that's 12:30, noon 30. It keeps going on at 10 p.m. The same day.
All right.
Is where you text saying you think I am going to come down and look for places.
that says to look at places that doesn't say places to live. I'm mapping out what we're going to do that day. It doesn't say anything about me looking for a place to live.
So your claim is that you're going to come down and do your thing on Tuesday, whether it be painting or tapas, and then watch TV and then go to bed so that you could go look at places and go to the grocery store and come back. And you don't say that going to look at places has anything to do with finding a place to rent.
I do not. And in fact, that says whether it be painting. That's we're talking about painting the office where I'm going to be putting the studio stuff. Why would I be doing that if I was not going to be there?
That's my question. Let's look at July 7th. If you go to the next page, it's page 215. You see at the very top, July 27, 2019.
I do indeed.
And the text messages start at 10:33. Then you go over on to the next page, page 218. At 7:17 p.m. you responded to Mr. Potts. It was good. We went out to eat and went to the mall. I'm headed back to your place now to get my stuff. And I'm going Uber back to Greensboro unless you want to see me.
What?
Okay, so at that point you were going back to Mr. Potts' place.
Yeah, well.
And this is after you sign your lease.
Yeah, well, if you're trying to point out why I say your place, I mean it is his place.
And then why were you going to Uber back to Greensboro?
I probably had something going on. I have a lot of family here, a lot of friends.
So then it's safe to say, at the very least on July 7th by the text messages, you were heading back to Greensboro.
Yeah, but again, I have lots of family and friends here.
Let's look at the next page, page 242 at the bottom. Do you see that?
I do.
August 2019 at 10:29 a.m. Do you see that?
I do.
Okay. And if we turn, the text messages go on for a little while there. At page 243, go to page 244. Text message at 1:39 p.m. from you. It says, let me know when you're about to leave. I'm looking at a place now. And then Mr. Potts says, oh, yeah, you want me to come get you? You say, sure, baby. That place was in a really bad looking part of town. I'm on my way up the road to a consignment shop past it. But you can pick me up there if you want to. So you're looking at places on August 2nd, even though you signed a lease on July 5th?
Well, I don't know if you've seen from our exchanges later on in our relationship, but it was pretty tumultuous at times. So this was probably following a fight or something where maybe we said for the short term I need to get a place that's down in Charlotte. That maybe moving in together was too soon, obviously. We had since set up, but...
Why would you need to get a place if you had signed a lease?
Because our relationship is the most important thing to me at that point. I don't know. I assume I heard you talking about your son earlier, that you're married. And sometimes when you're in a relationship, you want it to work. Maybe you have to realize that, you jumped the gun too soon. And I wasn't so much worried about a lease being signed than I wanted things to work between the two of us.
Previously, you said the entire reason you wanted a lease signed was to protect you from exactly that situation.
To protect me when I had a decision. Like, if he's telling me to leave, I don't have a colon, and if I don't have that kind of protection. But me saying, we jumped the gun too soon, maybe I should look for a place is completely different than somebody getting mad and telling you to get out of their place, and you not having anywhere to go. So those two things can both exist simultaneously. One doesn't exclude the other.
If you go to the next page, more text messages from the same day.
Okay.
And we jump forward to 8:52 p.m.
Hey.
Mr. Potts says, where are you at going? And you said, home. where are you? And he said, same. I was just wondering why you were texting your mom rather than talking to her in person. Next page. Oh, I'm sitting at my desk and monitor. Do you see that?
You...
So you were at your mother's house on August 2, 2019.
Apparently so, yes.
And you were texting your mom from and you referred to your mom's house as home.
I still do. I still do that. I think a lot of people, that's just a term that you use when you're talking about going back to where you grew up. That's putting too much stock in the word home.
If you go to next page, if you go to the bottom of page 259, do you see that?
Add to.
And that is it. If you see towards the top, August 6, 2019 at 8:56 a.m.
I do.
So these are texts from August 6, 2019. And if you go to the next page, page 262, Mr. Potts texted you. He talked to Chelsea about some of those places she sent over. And I also found another apartment community I wanted to go look at too. You said he was literally about to ask you about that, and he says, hi, Jinx, who is Chelsea?
Chelsea is a friend of Ben's.
And what does Chelsea do for a living?
She is a realtor.
And she was helping you find an apartment, wasn't she?
In the beginning, yes.
And in fact, she was helping you find an apartment on August 6, 2019.
I had asked her again, following probably a site that Ben and I had. She was helping me find a place. But again, we resolved this, so I never actually moved in anywhere else. You'll probably find that frequently throughout here where we fight. But that was just the basis of our relationship.
If you look at the next page at the bottom of 285, August 8, 2019.
Right.
And that's where the texts start at 12:27 a.m.
That's correct.
And if we go forward several text messages throughout the day, it gets to 4:44 p.m. on page 187.
Right.
He texted Mr. Potts, "Oh, I need to make an appointment to see those places with Chelsea or the police themselves. So I was thinking Saturday, so you can be with me." And he said, "I'm going to my parents' house on Saturday."
Right.
So on August 8th, Chelsea is helping you look for it. You're texting Ben about having Chelsea help you look for an apartment.
Again, throughout the beginning of August, I was looking for a remedy to the relationship problems we were having. So, again, as she said, you will find this probably throughout here, where we will fight. I will say, I'll find another place. Let's work on things. And then we will go back and forth about fixing a relationship. And I never wound up leaving.
You weren't fighting at this point, were you?
Of course not, because we had a solution. The remedy was going to be me looking for another place. And then eventually it turns into, I don't want you to go blah, blah, blah. And I never wind up leaving. But me saying that I'm going to go look at places is me trying to appease the issues that are going on within my relationship.
If we go then to page 289, the next page there is a 532 text from you. He just not stayed for several days, and some people can get to where they need their me time, and I just don't want to seem like I'm trying to smother you.
Right.
You signed the lease. What difference does it make if you're smothering somebody?
Again, because let me try to be clear about this. The relationship to me was more important than the legal status that I had with Elisa at that point. The lease was so that Ben couldn't say at the drop of a hat, "He wants you out. I want you to go," but me saying that maybe a remedy to this relationship is I go and look for another place. That's completely different. those two things didn't both coexist, so the relationship to me was more important. And I was going to do what I needed to do to fix that.
So you were just going to break the lease?
It was month to month.
If you look at August 12, 29, on page 302.
Wait, how would that be me breaking a lease if I just left?
I just asked you if you were just looking for a place and you were going to leave.
Why, but that's not breaking a lease. I can still honor the lease. That doesn't imply that I'm going to break it.
Okay, if you look at page 302, it starts in the middle there, August 12, 2019.
Correct.
And then there are text messages that go to the next page at 12:08 a.m. Do you see that?
Correct.
Noted, okay, so the text messages start right at 12 a.m. on August 12, and at 12:08 a.m. you texted everything you're feeling right now is justified. And you're right, I think some days I just feel lost. I'm sort of uncomfortable in my day-to-day, and I have to settle on a car and find a place, and I just sometimes feel like I don't know what I'm right.
Correct.
Okay, so you were looking for a place on August 12, 2019.
Again, that is whole within the time frame.
Page 332, August 8th, and you see it says August 18, 2019.
And
at 1:43, actually, so you guys are arguing here, right? And it's safe to say you're not together at this point, right?
Probably one of the many times.
Okay, and then on the following page, you say, okay, thanks for being upfront about it. I will mail your key back to you tomorrow at 11:37 a.m. And Mr. Potts says, thank you.
If I didn't lie there, why would I have the key?
And if you did lie there, why would you mail it back?
Again, because sometimes just having a lease agreement doesn't mean you want to be miserable within the place that you reside for the terms of the lease.
12:06 m. the same day, page 334 at 12:06 a.m. You texted to Mr. Potts, he should have never done that, and I won't anymore. I know what I need to do to make sure this doesn't happen anymore. And starting tomorrow, I'm going to do it. I am going to settle on a place there so we won't have this distance between us. This week, between us. So this week I will have chosen a place. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So you told Mr. Potts on August 8th that you were going to choose a place in Charlotte.
Then...
And it was not going to be his place.
Well, I didn't say it wasn't going to be. I mean, it wound up being his place. I'm just, again, this goes within that. Back to the argumentative stuff.
Go to page 335.
The...
You texted Mr. Potts and said, how would you feel about me cooking us dinner tomorrow? And we can talk. And I can actually wrap my arms around you. And he says, you don't need to do that. And you said you want to if you have me.
And
then he said, let me start by saying I love you. And I appreciate you trying to make the effort. You said, of course, blah, blah, blah. He just want to hold you.
Right.
And then he says, Elvira, I don't think tomorrow is the best time for that. Tiffany said with me over. Tiffany stayed with me over the weekend at Cole Jackson that I literally never have people stay over like that. And it is extremely rare for me. I want to be able to get settled. And I'm trying as hard as possible not to give him the wrong impression.
What?
So on August 18th,
and...
you asked to come to Mr. Potts's place tomorrow. And Mr. Potts says, no, you cannot come.
What?
Okay.
Again, try to be respectful and work on the relationship. Which is more important than a legal right that I have to be there.
If we look at page 433 at the bottom,
What?
you will see at the top it says September 1, 2019.
I do.
And at the 50 p.m., Mr. Potts texted you and says, "Oh, and thank you for letting me bring you to Grandma's house. That meant the world to me." What is Mr. Potts referring to there?
Oi, to my grandmother's. I go to my grandmother's every Sunday to cook lunch.
And had Mr. Potts driven you to your grandma's house that day?
Yeah.
Okay. And then, if we look at the very bottom of the page, 652, and maybe it says, "How long did you stay at Random's?" Do you see that?
I do.
Then you responded, "He just got back home, went and picked up lunch, and then took along that." Haha, 652, Payne. Do you see that?
I do.
And when you're saying back home, you're referring to your mother's house on Providence Church Road in Pleasant Grove?
Yes. Home as in, back to Greensboro, not my home. Again, that's just the term that I used to talk about my mom's place.
And then we're going to look at page 437.
I bet.
And that's September 2019. Do you see that?
Yeah.
And down there towards the middle, it says, "You feel like I'm going to die. I've been helping Mom in the yard all day."
Okay, yep.
And so were you doing yard work in Pleasant Garden?
Was I helping my mother with her yard? Yes.
And that was again at Providence Church Road.
Guilty as charged for helping my mother.
Then if we go to page 442, and you see at the very bottom of the page, it says September 4th, 2019.
I do.
Okay, and it looks like you're. It says on the following page 443, you texted, "And I'm so excited to see you," and Mr. Potts responds, "And not as excited as I am." And then, if we keep going at page 446, it goes on to 447. There's a picture of a cute dog. Whose dog is that?
That would be my mom's dog, Archie.
Archie. And is that at your mother's house?
Yes.
Okay. And it goes on, and actually on page 448.
Wait, is that implying that I took that picture?
Did you?
I can't remember. I mean, it could be a picture that my mom took and sent to me that I just forwarded to Ben.
Okay, but at 11:19 a.m. you sent it to Ben.
Apparently, I did, yes.
Okay, have you ever taken a picture of Archie before?
Of course I have.
Then if we go a little further, page 448, well, actually, just to recap, you said earlier in here you were talking about being excited on the same day you were talking about being excited to see Ben.
Yeah.
So you weren't together at that time?
No, but again, there are many weekends that Ben goes home to see his parents, and I'll do the same. Or I have friends that have a birthday or something going on that I'll come and stay overnight. I come back to Greensboro frequently, so there were a lot of instances where he wasn't there at the house, and I wasn't in the house. We didn't spend every second together. I mean, we both went and did our own thing sometimes.
Look at page 443. That same day you texted Mr. Potts at 10:29 a.m. I'm packing out.
What?
So you were the one that was packing to go to him and not the other way around.
Again, that could be me packing to come back. I stayed in Greensboro with friends over the weekend. I could be saying that I'm just packing up my stuff and getting ready to come back. That doesn't mean I'm packing from my home, where I live in Pleasant Garden, to come there.
If you look on page 448, there's another picture there of Archie.
There is Cindy.
And that's still at your mother's house.
That is indeed.
And then we're going to go to page 456 of the exhibit. And if you see there right about the middle of the page is September 9, 2019.
I do.
Okay. And we go forward there. The text messages start the day at 12 a.m. and there's multiple text messages there. If you go to page 472 at 526, you texted Mr. Pottswell, "I officially suck at life." And then the next page at 527, you texted him a picture. And the picture appears to be somebody holding mail.
That's correct.
And if you flip to the next page, I've blown that picture up for you.
This.
And that looks like a picture of mail addressed to Kyle Curtis at 1530 to Providence Church Road, Pleasant Garden.
I remember that vividly.
And what does that mail?
That was a surprise for again that I had ordered and had it sent to my mother's address so that he wouldn't get it in the mail.
And it was delivered to your mother's house.
That.
And at least on September 9th, you were getting mail at your mother's house.
Objection.
I got a package there.
And did your mother throw that away or reject it?
I don't think so. It appears not.
Mr. Curtis, I'm showing you what we've marked as exhibit number 32. That's a screenshot from a YouTube channel. Do you recognize the person in that screenshot?
Yes.
And who is that?
That is Katie Paulson.
And Miss Paulson is doing a stream here. Is that accurate?
I assume so.
And she's posted some text messages between you and her. Do you remember sending text messages to Miss Paulson?
Oh, yeah. We text frequently.
Okay. And in this particular text message, she asks you, and this is streamed live on December 15, 2019. Do you see that? And on this text message, she asks you, why didn't you go to court?
What?
And you respond that you don't care about it. I have completely moved on. I answer a letter here and there when I get one from the court. And then I move on. Right now, he seems to be having trouble proving the damages he claims, so it's stalled. Other than that, I don't know. I stopped caring. Okay. And so you were receiving mail from the court in December 2019?
Objection.
I'm not saying that. This is me not wanting to answer any of her questions in detail. This is just me giving her a blanket answer that has no details. Nothing like that. Because I don't like she's doing here. You know, we don't want to broadcast that out to the world.
You say in that text message that you received mail from the court.
I say that I received a letter, you know, here and there. But again, I'm telling her things that, you know, I'm not telling her the entire truth about things. Absolutely not. I mean, the people who are online, when they go out and do this sort of stuff and put it out there, I mean, the attention in this case is unreal. And I'm not giving her any details about anything in the case. This is just me giving her a blanket answer to get her to stop messaging me.
Did you ever get any letters from the court?
No.
You never got a single letter from the court?
No.
So when Judge Gale says that the court specifically sent letters to the Pleasant Garden address, you never got those?
Never got those.
Yet you did get mail on September 9th at your mom's house.
I get a packet there that I was looking for, yet I don't normally stand by the mailbox waiting on court documents.
But if your mom got the court, You also said that your mom still gets mail and would get mail for you, correct?
Yeah.
And she would hold it for you?
Yeah.
And if it came in from the court, what would she do with it?
I don't know how she would know it's from the court.
If any mail came in, what would she do with it?
Sometimes she puts it off to the side until I come by there. But, I mean, she doesn't know who, documents that are from what. She doesn't know, she doesn't look at it like that.
She doesn't throw it away.
I don't know.
Do you ever instruct her to throw it away?
Why would I do that?
Good question.
I'm going to take a bathroom break.
Can we take 10?
It's a good idea. I believe we were right about the minutes when we left off before, so I'm going to start the video from the minutes, and we'll let it play from there. Okay, that's the end. So I asked you questions about that before. You said you had watched it, but we just watched here today.
Yes.
Having watched it fresh, do you have any other different answers that we have from before?
No, other than I think Glenn is full of it, and he's not an expert on this stuff.
You don't agree with his analysis?
Of course not.
So, and if the subpoena response from Discover comes back and shows different documents than what you produced, will you?
I don't have to worry about that.
Okay. And speaking about rent payments, we've seen you've produced the one and we saw the exhibit.
Correct?
The screen prints from Zell.
Correct.
Or screen prints from Discover showing Zell transactions.
Correct.
Those screen prints are those from your phone.
Yes.
Okay. And have you produced any other evidence of rent payments to Mr. Potts in July, August, September, October, November, or December of 2019?
Other than that kind of proof or documents to support that, what else would I need to submit?
Well, you submitted those to $300 payments.
Correct.
And that's in July.
Correct.
Have you submitted any evidence of payments in August?
No.
And for the ones in July, you have not produced a whole Discover statement showing that those came out?
No, but I went through that. They will be supplied.
And nothing, no evidence for August?
Correct.
And no evidence for September?
Correct.
And no evidence for October?
Correct. I think there were a total overpayments to Ben. A lot of times I would, for example, when we went out, I would pay for things. It was that kind of relationship. You know what I mean?
The kind of relationship where you sign a lease.
Yeah, again, I explained earlier about why the lease was important, but in relationships, things don't usually go what's put out in black and white either.
Mr. Curtis, and showing you what's been marked as exhibit number 33. This is you were served some document request in this case, correct?
Yes.
And this was produced by your attorney in response to those document requests.
Yes.
And did you assist in responding to this document?
Yes.
Okay, we are going to look at number 1, the request for production of documents asked for all Discover statements for the account ending in 8,940 for the months of June 2019 through September 2019. Do you see that?
Correct.
And the response is, Mr. Curtis objects. It's overly broad in time and scope.
Correct.
But then, the next sentence, subject to and without waiving these objections, Mr. Curtis will produce his Discover card, statements marked as confidential, attorney size only for the stipulation of plaintiff's counsel. Do you see that?
Yeah, I do.
So why have you not produced June through September 2019 Discover statements?
There was a lot of your client has a tendency, and it has been proven of putting my personal information, just as you saw that through that video, putting unredicted things online. He's also monetizing that by telling people that if they agree to join his channel, they can get access to those sorts of documents, unredicted. So he is monetizing my personal information. My concern is handing over that sort of information to you that will then go to be used for that kind of purpose.
The response letter mentions the stipulation to have these documents marked as confidential in attorney's eyes only. Do you see that?
Why, but call me a skeptic, but I'm a little skeptical.
So even if you said you will produce them confidential, attorney's eyes only, you now say you will not produce.
I don't recall ever saying I would produce them.
It's right there in front of you.
I'm explaining to you why I haven't produced them to this point, my attorney, and I will discuss this.
There's nothing to discuss.
There's a lot to discuss.
Excuse me?
Excuse me, there's a lot to discuss.
Read your response. We just read the subject, so.
Alright. And I'm explaining to you why I have.
So are you changing your answer?
I am not.
So you're going to produce those?
I have said in this deposition many times over that I plan to do that. I have explained to you why I haven't done it up until this point. I don't know how much clearer I can be. I mean, tell me, and I'll explain it.
Okay, you produced statements from February 2019.
I did?
You have no confidentiality concerns with those statements.
I am going to produce what's in number 1 to my attorney, but not under your terms.
Why did you produce February?
I'm not answering that question again.
Okay, but there's no confidentiality concern.
Oh, there's a lot.
But you produced those anyway.
I'm not answering that question.
But you will produce those?
I'm not answering that.
Objection.
Number 2 asks for all bank statements for any bank account or credit card account in defendant's name for the months of June 2019 through September 2020. Do you see that? Do you see that, Mr. Curtis?
I do see that.
And you see the response as subject to and without waiving the second sentence, subject to and without waiving these objections. Mr. Curtis will produce any statements for bank accounts or credit cards that he used during the period that serve as the summons and complaint as attempted in this lawsuit. Do you see that?
I do.
Have you produced those documents yet?
I plan to.
So's that on all.
I plan to.
But you have not produced them yet.
I plan to.
And you have. And what have you done to find those documents?
I plan to submit those documents.
What's the hold-up?
None of your concern.
Number 3 says complete copies of any bank statements or similar documents that show any transfers or payments to Benjamin Potts. The response is Mr. Curtis will produce documents responsive to this request marked confidential. Attorney's eyes only per the stipulation. Have you produced any of those documents yet?
I have.
Which documents are those?
The cell payment.
And other than that, any other documents?
No.
Do you have any other documents?
I plan to submit the ones I do have.
So's that you do have other documents.
Tess?
Number 4 asks for all text messages, and you explain you no longer have any of your text messages.
I do not.
Number 5 is produce unredacted copies of all documents attached to the affidavit filed, in this case the end of the second sentence response subject to and without waiving his objection. Mr. Curtis will produce unredacted versions of his Discover card statements as confidential in attorney's eyes only per the stipulation. He will also produce unredacted versions of 1,099 tax forms. Have you produced those unredacted Discover card statements?
We discussed this.
I don't think we have discussed this. Have you produced the unredacted versions of the Discover card statements?
I've said 900 times that I plan to produce those.
But you have not done it yet?
No.
And you did produce the 1,099 tax form, correct?
Yes.
And then number 7 asks for the complete and actual bank statements that include the transfers that you claim were made by Zell to Benjamin Potts on July 9th and 8th. And your response was that you would produce electronic versions of those that correspond with transactions referenced in the request. And you have not done that yet?
I have not.
And you have declined the offer to just look at those on the computer today.
I've answered that question 900 times.
Objection.
So I've got a series of the kind of a recap questions here, and I think we'll be done, Mr. Curtis.
8.
You've used the Pleasant Garden address with Mr. McRae for official non-sequitur show business. Is that correct?
I didn't use it for official business, because those papers were never filed.
Well, when you prepared those papers, you listed the Pleasant Garden address as your official residence.
I did in that case, yes.
And in email correspondence you used for the non-sequitur show, you used it as your address.
Of course.
Okay, and we've seen.
That was in 2018. I just want to put that out there.
And we've seen several text messages between you and Mr. Potts in the July-August time frame that say you are looking for a place to rent in Charlotte, and that you claim to, even though you claim to have signed a lease with Mr. Potts on July 15th. Is that a correct statement?
That is not no. There's places that I intended to find work based on fixing that relationship, not me looking for a place out of the blue.
Even though you claim to have signed a lease with Mr. Potts on July 15, 2019, you continue to ask permission to go to his house and express your desire not to smother him. Is that correct?
Correct. When we were fighting, I wanted to be respectful because, again, I wanted to fix this relationship.
Even though you claim to have signed a lease on July 5th which required monthly payments of $600, you have only produced evidence of $300 payments in late July of 2019 through Zell. Is that correct?
Correct.
You claim that those payments went to Mr. Potts, but you have not produced complete bank statements to back that statement up. Is that correct?
Correct.
Sitting here today, you have no evidence of rent being paid in August, September, October, November, or December 2019.
Again, I have the key in August.
You have no evidence of rent being paid, and I will repeat the question. Sitting here today, you have no evidence of rent being paid in August, September, October, November, or December of 2019.
I have not produced that evidence. What again? Why would I have a key if I didn't lie there?
So if you have not produced that evidence, but my question is, you have no evidence. Is that correct?
That is not correct.
Okay. And you are going to produce that evidence.
Correct.
Showing payments in August, September, October, November, and December.
Not in that sequence. No, again, our relationship was such that it wasn't adhering to a set lease.
Even though you claim to have moved in with Mr. Potts in Charlotte on July 15, 2019, you did not change your address with the post office. Is that correct?
Most people don't. That is correct.
Even though you moved in with Mr. Potts in Charlotte in July, claimed to have moved in with Mr. Potts in Charlotte July of 2019, you did not change your driver's license with the DIM. Is that correct?
I don't know anybody that likes to go to the DMV. And my license doesn't expire until the year 2021. So why would I put that burden on myself?
Even though you claim to have moved in with Mr. Potts on July 15, 2019, you did not change your voter registration.
No, it wasn't. That was not at the top of my to-do list.
I don't worry about it. Well, actually, on August 30, 2019, your mother received and signed a certified mail slip for the summons and complaint according to her affidavit that was submitted in this case. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And we have seen text messages showing that you were at your mother's house on September 1st and September 2nd of 2019. Is that correct?
Out in her mower yard, yes.
Okay. And you received mail at your mother's house as late as September 9, 2019. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you participated in a Discord discussion on September 23rd where you said you had received a copy of the lawsuit and were going to respond, and you were, quote, ready to rumble. Is that correct?
That was taken way out of context. That summons was sent to me via link, not physical paper.
And you had that discussion on September 3rd.
I couldn't tell you the date.
We looked at that before. It said September.
If it said that the documents, then that's correct. But I don't remember right now.
And you participated in a Discord conversation on October 6th where you said you missed the filing deadline and it was your fault. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you told Ms. Paulson by text message or on December 2019 that you would receive mail from the court, which at the time was being sent to your mother's house in Pleasant Garden. Is that correct?
I wanted Miss Paulson to seem like I had a handle on things because I didn't want people to know the details of what was going on with the case.
And you participated in a YouTube interview on January 20, 2020 where you admitted that you signed a complaint. Is that a true statement?
No, that's not a true statement. Except in one of the things that were.
That was the YouTube that Mr. McRae sent us?
Hold on.
Let me find that.
What exhibit was that? Because that could be where I say that those are the facts of the case, not that I got them.
I think it's Exhibit 29. It starts on paragraph 10. Paragraph 10 reads, if I'm late on January 20, 2020.
Oh, yes.
Mr. Curtis participated in a YouTube interview in which he discussed the case in detail.
Yes, I did say that, yes, taken out of context.
And so those quotes here that you said you, quote, made a mistake and didn't handle things the right way. And, I mean, it's been shown now that I didn't show up to court, and I lied about having an attorney.
Correct. Because that was the findings of the court with the default judgment. So, yes, I did say that.
And the other statements in that affidavit are correct.
They are, yes.
And you have failed to produce copies of your Discover bank statements for July of 2019. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Objection. Asked and answered.
In September 2019.
Asked and answered.
Is that correct?
Asked and answered.
Is that correct?
Asked and answered.
Objection. Non-responsive. You produced your Discover bank statements for September 2019.
Asked and answered.
That's a no. Have you produced your Discover card statements for October 2019?
Objection. You can answer.
No.
Have you produced your
No,
Statements for
no, I have not produced the Discover statement for October, November, December.
and you have not produced any unredacted versions for August and November 2019.
Correct.
That's all I have.
I have just a few questions. It shouldn't be too much longer. Think you can go a little bit longer without a break?
Yeah,
Mr. Curtis, where did you live in August 2019?
at 2005, 143 Anna Garrison Road in Charlotte.
When did you move there?
At the middle of July,
Where did you live in September 2019?
same place.
At Garrison Road in Charlotte.
Yes, ma'am.
Where did you live in November 2019?
Anna Garrison in Charlotte.
Where did you live in December 2019?
Anna Garrison, Charlotte.
Did you continue to live at Anna Garrison Road in Charlotte in early 2020?
Yes,
Mr. Curtis, describe your relationship with Mr. Potts.
he was my former boyfriend. We met on Tinder. Had at the beginning this always great relationship. Things got tumultuous at times.
You were saying you did fight a lot with Mr. Potts during your relationship.
Yes, we did.
When you signed the rental agreement, Mr. Curtis, was that rental agreement a month-to-month lease?
Yes,
During the period after you signed the rental agreement, did you still occasionally continue to look for places?
of course.
Tell me again, what was that?
Because when we would fight, we would get to the point where, in a heated exchange, people say, maybe we jumped the gun too much or too soon. Maybe it would be better for things if I did, instead of, leaving the city completely. Just found a place in Charlotte, and it would help things.
Nah. Did you occasionally pay utilities for the Anna Garrison Road address instead of paying actual rent to Mr. Potts?
I did, yes. I covered the internet there, various things. I mean, that we would, it was that kind of relationship where it was just it wasn't so rigid. In terms of like the first of every month kind of thing.
And how did you pay him?
For the rent.
No. So for utilities, when you paid utilities, did you pay cash through Zelle? And I'm just giving examples.
Sometimes in cash. There were many times where that would be the case. PayPal I did for the spectrum, for the internet. So, it would just depend on it, the situation.
So do you understand that your ex, Mr. Potts, is alleging that you forged his name on a rental agreement and an affidavit of residence that were filed in this lawsuit?
I am aware of that.
How did you feel when you learned that Mr. Potts is accusing you of forgery?
Hurt, it was like a bombshell. I think, he was aware of me going out with somebody else. He saw that, and I think that he responded in that heat of the moment. But it was like a big betrayal personally to me.
Were you surprised?
Very.
Afterward, how did you feel? Describe your feelings toward Mr. Potts. You're angry. Anything else?
Of course I was angry. But, we were together for over a year. So there was still, part of me that. But yet, I was extremely angry when it happened because it was kind of hard to believe that he was saying those things.
Do you think that Mr. Potts made those allegations against you?
Because I think that he knows based on when I started my relationship with the online world and why I wanted to get out of it to begin with. he did something similar in February when we had a fight. He was like, "You need to get out. I need you to leave." And I was like, "No, I'm not doing that." He sent out a tweet that said, house squatting. He won't leave, blah, 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 blah. And because he knows this is fodder for people who are online. And I'm very aware of this days. Now, a couple days later, he deleted it and, posted on his Twitter. But this is another example of that. He found out that Saturday before. He made his tweets on a Sunday that I went out on another day. And this was another example of him going to Twitter to try to stir this up. And I don't think he realized how deep and deeply involved it was going to get. I think he since then said, that he regrets getting involved in the first place. But this is a pattern of behavior that he's done before.
Nah, Mr. Potts testified yesterday that he was not aware that you went on a date with someone else. Do you have reason to believe otherwise?
I do. Me and the person took a picture, and I posted it on Instagram, and Instagram Stories has this really cool feature that will show you who's viewed your posts. He was the second person to see the post.
Nah, accusing you of committing forgery is a pretty harsh payback for that. Is that something that you would expect of Mr. Potts?
Honestly, I didn't expect that. I didn't at all expect that. I think that, again, he made a rash decision based on what he saw in a photo. And maybe he thought the way I can rationalize it is that he thought that he could make this tweet stir up stuff like he did the first time with the spotting tweet in February. And that would just be it. He would cause some sort of disruption. I don't think that he thought he would be getting as involved as he actually did. But once he put it out there, he kind of had to stick with that.
So do I understand you to say that when you and Mr. Potts get in fights, Mr. Potts has a history of inserting himself into this lawsuit?
Yes.
So, Mr. Curtis, you have been pretty open about your past felony convictions from when you were younger.
Yes.
Having that background, do you understand the consequences for breaking the law?
Of course.
You understand that there would be consequences to pay for forging documents in a court case?
Absolutely.
Is that a risk that you would be willing to take?
No. One time spending in the legal system is enough for me.
Is that a risk that you took in this case?
No, absolutely not.
Did you forge Mr. Potts' name on the rental agreement that was submitted to the court in this lawsuit?
Absolutely not.
Did you forge Mr. Potts' name on the affidavit of residence filed in this lawsuit?
Absolutely not.
Did you forge or alter any Discover Card bank statement that has been submitted to the court in this lawsuit?
Absolutely not.
Have you forged or altered any other document that has been submitted to the court this lawsuit?
Absolutely not.
I want to talk a little bit about how you physically received the summons and complaint in this lawsuit. So just to recap, tell me again how you learned about this case, about this lawsuit.
I was sent a link saying that there had been dispute. They had actually gone through and filed the case. And the link was sent to me, so online had, because people again, for whatever reason, there's a lot of attention on this case. So I was sent a link and shown the lawsuit.
So did you physically receive a copy of the summons and complaint immediately upon learning about the lawsuit?
No.
When did you receive the summons and complaint?
And I couldn't tell you the exact date.
Would you say it was several weeks or several months after August 8th?
Months.
And I'm using August 30th because that's the date shown on the Affidavit of Service.
Alright.
So several months after August 30th, 2019.
is when I learned about.
No, when you physically received a copy of the summons and complaint.
Oh, yes, months.
And how did you receive it?
And I went home for, I want to say it was Christmas.
Did you ever lie in the early stages of this case, but having an attorney?
I did, yes.
Why did you do that?
Because when you're under a microscope online, everybody's looking at every little thing you do, and it was a pride thing. I wanted to see my cat, everything under control, and there wasn't any need to put out any sort of mode that, it's you're overwhelmed or whatever, so I did absolutely do the wrong thing there, and I lie about having an attorney.
When is the first time that you retained an attorney in this case?
Look,
And when was that?
after today, there are so many dates in my head.
I understand, 2020.
Yes, definitely 2020. I want to say maybe May, June.
So shifting gears just a bit, we've mentioned the name Glenn Williamson a couple of times. Who is that?
That is the person that is paying for Mr. Potts and Mr. McRae's legal services.
Do you know Mr. Williamson's profession?
I know that he owned some software company, not personal, I don't personally know what his profession is. I know it has something to do with software.
Do you know him to be an expert in, let's just say, fonts?
Definitely not no.
In PDFs?
No,
In forgery?
definitely not.
In metadata?
No,
Anything else?
no, well, there's quite a few things, but I don't think it's relevant to the case.
I want to show you a few video clips. And, Scott, it might make sense for us to switch places again.
Sure, okay.
I'm going to do these on my computer. They're short. And Madam Court Reporter, I'd actually like to mark these as exhibits, and I'll send them to you after the deposition. I think we are on 34. I'll show you what we are marking as Exhibit 34. And I'll represent to you that this is a clip from a longer publicly available YouTube video dated September 23, 2019. Mr. Curtis, do you recognize the person speaking in this video?
I do indeed.
Who is it?
Steve McRae.
What is Mr. McRae saying about your address in this video?
That he knew that I had moved in with my boyfriend.
Okay, why do you think that Mr. McRae would say that the summons and complaint were at your old address?
He was being accused of doxing me, meaning that he was being accused of putting out personal information about me online. And so he was saying that the address that he sent the summons to was old. And it didn't matter anyway, because I had since moved in with my boyfriend.
I'll show you what we are marking as Exhibit 35. Mr. Curtis, I'll represent to you that this is a short clip from a publicly available YouTube video dated February 6, 2020. Do you recognize the person speaking in this video?
I do.
Who is it?
Stephen McRae.
What is Mr. McRae saying about your address in this video?
Again, that he knew it was an old address that the summons was sent to, and that I had moved in with my boyfriend.
Okay, I will play what we are marking as Exhibit 36. I'll represent to you, Mr. Curtis, that this is a short clip from a publicly available YouTube video also dated February 6, 2020. Do you recognize the person speaking in this video?
I do.
Who is it?
Steve McRae.
And what is Mr. McRae saying about your address in this video?
Again, that he knows it was an old address that I had moved in with my boyfriend, and that I believe he said that it was a Western address, that he was aware that I had moved.
I'll play what we are marking as Exhibit 37. Alright, this is once again a short clip from a publicly available YouTube video dated February 6, 2020. Do you recognize the person speaking in this video?
I do.
Who is it?
Steve McRae.
And Mr. McRae is the plaintiff in this case.
Yes.
And Mr. McRae in this video is referring to you being served at an old address, right?
Alright.
Is Mr. McRae an attorney?
No.
I have just one more that will mark as Exhibit 38. Mr. Curtis, I will represent to you that this is a clip from a publicly available YouTube video dated February 8, 2022, so 2 days later than the others. Do you recognize the voice of the male speaking in this video?
I do.
Who is it?
Steve McRae.
And is Mr. McRae once again referring to you being served at an old address?
It is.
Have you just seen 5 clips of the plaintiff, Mr. McRae, saying that you were served at an old address?
Yes.
And that he was aware of that address being old?
Alright.
Mr. Curtis, just a couple of final questions for you. You've submitted, I'm losing count at this point, 3 or 4 affidavits in this lawsuit, right?
Alright.
Is there anything in those affidavits that you would retract today that are not true?
There's not.
Everything in those affidavits is accurate and true to the best of your knowledge, correct?
Alright.
Thank you. No further questions from me.
Mr. Curtis, I just have a couple follow spoons. Mr. McRae responded to you filed clips like these and similar clips earlier in this lawsuit, correct?
Correct.
Mr. McRae responded to those in his own affidavit dated X number 20 and dated February 12, 2020. Do you remember seeing that?
Yes.
And Mr. McRae said that he was never. In paragraph 11 of that affidavit, Mr. McRae says that the reason he stated in the interview that the address is wrong is that other people told him after the filing became public that Mr. Curtis had moved, he was never given any new address. And I never had any direct evidence as to whether he had moved or not. Did you forgive Mr. McRae your new address?
Why would I do that?
So that's a no.
That's an absolutely no.
Mr. Curtis, have you ever received certified mail before?
Yes.
And so you signed a green card that comes when you get certified mail.
Well, I don't know if I've ever had certified mail. Now that I think about it, I've had mail that I've had to sign from, like, UPS or DHL, that sort of thing.
And your mother, in this case, signed a green card that was submitted to the court for the affidavit. Do you remember seeing that?
I do, yes.
And she says in her affidavit that she signed for the summons and complaint on August 30th, 2019.
Yes.
Okay, and you've seen the text messages showing that you were in her house on September 1st and September 2nd, 2019.
The second, yes.
And did you get your mail while you were there on September 2nd?
I can't recall.
Is it common for people to have to sign for mail?
Not usually, I don't think.
And this is just to follow up on some things. I think we need to close the loop on the deposition. You said you have the original signed affidavit with the ink signature on it.
Correct.
Can you produce that to your attorney?
Correct.
The original.
Correct.
And you'll do that after this deposition today.
Yes.
And you said you have the original electronic file of the lease agreement on your computer.
I do.
and you'll produce that original file to your attorney today after this deposition.
Case.
And I know I have asked you multiple questions about documents. Just one more question. You said you were going to produce them, and can you tell us when you will produce them?
At some point today.
Today, okay.
At some point.
No further questions.
No further questions.